Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another Technolive. Greeting you on this. Sorry, just looks out the window. I don't even know what weather that is.
I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna say the same thing about our weather up here.
Yeah, I
It,
mean it's bright. And I
but it
swear
doesn't
it was
feel
sunny earlier
sunny.
in the day.
Yeah, to me, I'm looking at it and it's kind of sort of bright, but not sunny, not really rainy. Like, I'm not really sure what it is.
Yeah, it sort of defies classification.
It does.
Either way, I'll tell you some good news.
Oh,
My tomatoes are ready for harvest.
oh, wonderful.
Yeah, despite this weird weather, so heat wave one week and then weird bright cloud the other week,
Oh, yeah.
and I've had my first two tomatoes and they're delicious.
Excellent. Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Are you going to use them to make sauces?
Sauces?
Mm,
No.
no.
I've had two so far and they're about the size of a pea.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Um, but no, chopped up nice and finely on top of a pizza. And
Oh,
then when they,
lovely.
under the grill, they caramelize a little bit. Oh,
Hmm.
lovely. Anyway, I shouldn't talk about food. We should talk about what we're doing today, which I think,
Yes.
hopefully, it's going to be a cool one. At least it's cool for me. So, let me start by asking you, Dan, have you heard of a Mandelbrot?
No, I have not.
No. Okay. So, yeah, you might have seen this image, and it'll come through for on the stream a little bit later for you, but it'll be like for everyone else. You might have seen this image sort of hovering around. Uh, it's got a famous name. It's called Mandelbrot, or the Mandelbrot set, and it's a fractal. How's the word fractal on you? How does it fit?
Uh, we'll go with
We'll go with
Um,
Okay. So the cool thing about a fractal is when you zoom in on it, you see it. You know, no matter how much you zoom in on it, it just keeps on repeating and repeating itself.
right. Okay. Oh, of course. Yeah, 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 of
Yeah. So
course.
if we zoom down on one of the corners,
I'd heard of it. You see, I just couldn't remember what it was.
we can see it's the same shape again. And this really cool thing, all to do with maths. And basically, you start with a formula, and you work out all the points on a picture. Whether or not they belong in this formula.
Hmm.
It's a little tricky to explain, but we're computer scientists, and the part of computer science that we enjoy is taking things we don't understand and taking them apart and messing around with them, seeing if we can understand them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I thought we'd give that a go in MakeCode Arcade.
Wonderful.
So back again to my good old favourite.
It's a classic.
So let me just pop in the link in chat for anyone who wants to follow along. Arcade.makecode.com. Excuse my weird singing. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and make a new project as always. I've already used the word Mandelbrot, so any suggestions?
Hmm. Mandelbrot. I mean, going by how people. Do you remember how people used to do passwords back in the day, where it was you now need a number, and everybody just put the
Oh,
number
yeah.
one at the end of their existing password? I remember a comedian talking about that. This is basically my suggestion was going to be Mandelbrot 2.
Mandelbrot too, the classic.
Exactly.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you could call it anything you want. You could call it Bob. You
Go
could
for
call
it,
it. I've run out of names. You could call it Bob, Bob 2, Bob 3. Yeah. So, we're going to do something a bit more complex than usual. So, feel free to interrupt me, Dan, if you need me to go over something again.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps to this, but I think the results we get so cool.
Okay.
Genuinely, I've done a couple of simulations on MakeCode Arcade. In fact, if you want to see one that we've done before, have a look through the Technocamp's YouTube channel. ages ago, I think over a year ago now, I did one on Conway's Game of Life in MakeCode Arcade.
Oh, okay.
That's another simulation, another maths simulation, which is exactly what, the Mandelbrot set is.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is we start with an image, and for every pixel on that image, we try and work out whether or not it's inside this Mandelbrot set.
Okay.
And we change the color of that pixel depending on how many times we need to check whether or not it's in that set.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with an image, and I'm gonna store my image in a variable. So I'm gonna make a new variable. So variables, make a variable, and I'm gonna call this background. So we've made a variable called background, and at the moment I'm going to set it to 0. I'm going to whap that in on start. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So yeah, we've got a new variable. It does out at the moment. What we're going to do next, though, is we're going to dive into my favourite tab, the Advanced tab.
The Advanced tab.
I've spent far too long in the Advanced tab, and sometimes you could come away scared, but other times you could come away some cool stuff. And if we look in the images sort of panel, folder, box, not sure what to call it.
Draw.
I like draw. Yeah. There's a load of gubbins about filling different shapes, but scrolling down into the create section, you get this sort of oval with a grey square in the middle. But what would you call that shape? Sausage shape? Oblong? No. I don't know. Oh, they've added a new blob. Anyway, we're going to go for this blob with the grey square in, because that just means a blank image. And a blank image, by default, starts quite small. It starts by 16 pixels wide by 16 pixels tall. That's nowhere enough what we need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in that grey square to bring up the editor. And I'm not going to actually draw anything. I'm just going to change the resolution, the size, in the bottom left.
It's a bit tiny, the whole adjust the size thing, isn't it? You'd have thought they'd have made it a bit more dominant.
Yeah, I suppose it's a more sort of advanced feature that it doesn't really expect you to use, but who knows? Let's test your knowledge, Dan.
Okay.
We've done a lot of MakeCode Arcade stuff. Oh, I don't suppose you remember the size of the screen.
Oh, no.
Oh, I like being mean.
Is it in the 200s?
Oh, no, not quite, I'm afraid.
Okay, then I'm completely lost.
Yeah, the screen on the MakeCode Arcade simulator, it's 160 pixels wide. So that needs to be the first number we put in the resolution bit in the bottom left. So 160. And once you type that in right, you should see that your image goes really wide.
Yeah.
And then the height, which is what makes it weird, is 120. So it's not a square screen, and it's that shape-ish. And we're just going to go ahead and click done on that. We're not going to change the image at all. We're not going to mess it around. What
there we go.
We are going to do, though, is set the background image to be that image.
Mm-hmm.
And that's done all through the scene drawer. And in the scene drawer, there's this set background image block. And at the moment, it's setting it to something blank. We don't want that. But annoyingly, you can't actually delete that.
Oh, I see.
No matter how many times I get rid of that that sausage, it just won't go. Instead, what we need to do is we need to grab background from the variables drawer.
Ah, okay.
The background sausage, and we just sort of replace that. And now it behaves.
Oh yeah, and that's going into on start, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, there
it
we go.
looks a bit sort of silly the way we're doing it that way. We're creating a variable to be a blank image, and then we're setting the background to that variable, which is the blank image. The reason we've done this is because if we don't, the background doesn't update when we tell it to.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah, of course.
we've kind of added this extra step that saves us 100 steps later on.
Of course.
And next what we have to do is we have to go pixel by pixel. And what we do is we start at the top left of the screen with the first pixel. And then we start looking at all the ones in the same column as that.
Mm-hmm.
Now if we've done that, we look at the next column along and all the ones below it. And then the next column along and all the ones below it. So we sort of do it in columns. So we do the first column, second column, third column, fourth column. And we kind of need to do that. Well, we've got 160 pixels across the screen. So that means we've got 160 columns to check. So let's check the columns first. I'm going to use my favourite thing. It's in the loops drawer. And it's for index from 0 to 4. Okay. A couple of things we need to change though. Index is a stupid name for what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to rename the variable. And because this is the bit that goes side to side, I'm going to call this width. And I've spelt it correctly. You won't believe it, Dan, how many times in Technocamp's PowerPoint I always write width.
Oh, but it's one of those things where once you typo it once, you then typo it consistently.
Oh, yeah. Always. And I've been embarrassed in front of, groups of, 100 teachers all listening to me for something to, teach. And there I have on the screen, width. But I spelled it right this time. This for loop is counting across the screen. So it starts at 0 and it goes to pop quiz, width of the screen.
160.
Oh, if I catch you out that time. Yes, I just pop it in the 160. Who's... Oh, I had a weird memory then.
Okay.
Someone or something shouting 180.
That's darts, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's not darts. It's 160. We're not playing darts today, I'm afraid.
Mm-mm.
Although, a MakeCode arcade darts game, that might be in the works.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. 160 is the width we pop in there. So that's us going side to side. We also need to go up and down. So we need to get another loop. So again, we go into loops. Again, we find the same one, this for index from 0 to 4. And I'm going to pop it inside. So we got one for loop, and then the other for loop is actually fully enclosed by it. And the name here, let's not have index again. Let's right click and let's rename that one height. And of course the height of the screen is 120. Now you could make these larger if you wanted to, but because the screen is only so big, you just won't see anything outside the side of the screen. So 160 and 120 are the best numbers to choose. Speaking of darts, have you ever watched a show called Bullseye?
Oh, now we're talking a throwback.
I was gonna say.
Bum.
Oh, yeah. We definitely need to do that. MakeCode arcade Bullseye tie-in game.
That is That's the one where the host used to show them what they could have won, isn't it?
Oh yeah, here's what you could have won, and it would
Here's
be
what you could have won.
in one.
Yeah, that's
Here
it.
is a valuable toaster.
Yeah, exactly.
In two, this very ugly statue of a cat.
Yes.
In three, a speedboat.
A speedboat, yeah. Or some kind of full kitchen suite.
Oh yeah, I mean one of them I genuinely want is an old TV, and it's made out of. It's got wooden sides. It's beautiful, and it prints teletext.
Right.
So teletext was what they had around before the internet,
Yeah.
and it would display on your TV.
Oh, good lord.
And yeah, there's a TV out there that you could press a button on the remote and it would print out whatever it was looking at. So cool.
I mean, there are so many great. The thing is that there are so many great TV shows. Like Catchphrase, Crystal Maze.
Okay, Crystal Maze, yes, but catchphrase, no. No.
Well, Crystal Maze then is up there with being one of the best.
Oh, definitely. It's one of the most fondly remembered.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, we're getting distracted.
We're getting sidetracked. Yeah, we're getting really sidetracked. With our nostalgia.
We definitely need to do some kind of stream on all these old TV formats.
We do. Yeah.
Oh, do you remember Jungle Run?
That is one that I don't know.
Oh no, I got to introduce you to Jungle Run. Anyway, that has to wait for later. My apologies, everyone. Yeah, so what we need next, and again, this is one of the things that's kind of hard to explain until you can see the whole thing. Yeah, we haven't written the whole thing yet, so it's kind of doesn't make sense yet. But again, that's part of computer science. It's just playing around, see what we turn up with. We need a variable that stores how many times we've checked whether a pixel is inside the Mandelbrot or not.
Right.
So I'm going to go to variables. And I'm going to make a variable. And it's got... I mean, you can call it whatever you want. But I'm going to call it something sensible that makes sense for what we're doing.
Which is normally a good standard to go by.
Yeah, I'm going to call this the iteration. So the word iteration means looking again and again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we're doing. We're checking again and again and again and again whether or not a pixel is inside the Mandelbrot. So I'm going to call this iteration. It just keeps track of how many checks we've done for each pixel. So make a new variable, call it iteration, and we're going to start by setting iteration to 0.
Right.
And we haven't stopped that. Because we've got 4 more variables to make, I'm afraid. And this is where it can get a little bit boring. So, yeah, let's just go for it. And I'm not going to spend too long explaining what each one does, but yeah, we've got 4 to make.
Okay.
Going to make another one. So this is variable number 1 of what we've got left. And I'm going to call this x scaled. And again, you can call it Simon, you can call it Persephone, you could call it Phyllis. But I'm calling it x scaled. Because what this number is a number that we can change that changes the size of the Mandelbrot and how zoomed in we are. So it's all to do with the scale, how big things are. And this is the scale in the x direction, so side to side. So I'm going to call it x scaled. And we're going to set x scaled to 0. So I'm going to grab that and pop it underneath my iteration. And unfortunately, we've got some maths here.
Oh.
And it's the first of a little bit of maths. And we're going to build it up slowly. And we're going to build it up sort of outside. We're going to build it up bit by bit. And, it should make it simpler, make sense. So I'm going to click the math drawer. And we're going to start by adding stuff. So I'm going to get the plus and pop it in there. Now the number on the left changes how far side to side will the Mandelbrot sit in the screen.
Right.
So if it's a large number, it will go over to the right. If it's a low number, it'll go over to the left. I'm going to start it at -1. So it's going to kind of be in the little bit to the left, maybe a little bit to the middle. Then we need to sort of work out. Oh, I genuinely don't know how to explain this because I don't really know myself. That's the beauty of computer science. Fiddle around and mess around and see what cool things we could come up with. So I'm just going to write it out, and then we'll play around with it at the end, see what effects we can get.
Okay.
But I need to add to -1 another number. And that number is... Well, first of all, we need a 0 divided by 0. And I'm going to pop that in there. So we're working out a division equation. You know, we're working out division first. And then we're adding it to -1. And there's some things we need to divide. And what we need to divide is the width of the screen. So where I've got width in this for loop here, I'm going to click and drag it to steal it. And I'm going to put it in sort of the middle of that big equation. So -1 plus width divided by... Well, you can't divide by 0 because that's impossible. If you try and divide the number by 0, your computer just gives up and cries. So instead, I'm going to divide it by 50. And again, it's another number we can change. And that number there changes how zoomed in we are.
Okay.
I found 50 is a good one to start off with. How's that feeling so far, Dan? Have I bungled that explanation a bit?
No, I mean, so far it's fine. I mean, anything with maths will typically throw me anyway, but generally I think it's okay
Me too.
so far.
Maybe we're not the best ones to cover this if neither of us are too confident with the maths.
I think we're making stable progress, and I
Yeah.
think we're fine.
Yeah, we are making progress. Words. We are making progress because we're on to the next variable. So we've done x scaled, which is the sizes left to right. We need to now do y scaled, which is going to be the sizes up and down. So back into variables, I'm going to make a variable. And this one's going to be y scaled. And click OK. And exactly like x scaled, we're going to start it with y scaled being set to 0. And yeah, what's nice here is we just do exactly the same maths, except we use height instead of width.
Right.
So I'm going to blast through this one. So it's math with a plus. And on the left-hand side, it's going to be -1. Then back to math for a divide. And that goes in the right-hand side. We're going to pick up the height from the top of the for loop. So where it says for height, I'm literally just going to pick up the height from there. And plonk it in. And we can't divide by 0, we have to divide by 50. And there we are. We got those two. Yeah, they're kind of. They're not nasty, but they're sort of mathsy.
Yes.
Mathsy and nasty, kind of the same word, but you know what I mean. Yeah, we got something in there. The next two variables, we don't need to do any maths, we just need to create them.
Okay.
And the first variable is x I'm just thinking what a good name for this one would be. Calc for X calculation. Because this is where we're doing all the calculations for the side-to-side. So xcalc is the side-to-side calculation. And we're going to set xcalc to 0. And we've done side-to-side. Now we need to do up and down. That's going to be ycalc. So variables, make a variable, ycalc. And we're going to set ycalc to 0. Nice. Yeah, so what are we doing so far? Well, what we're doing is we're going for each pixel, and then for each pixel we're working out where it should be on the screen, and we're setting up some sort of maths numbers that we're going to use later.
Yes.
So yeah, nice start, nice simple beginnings.
Yeah.
Here's where things get interesting. So what we have to do next is for each of those pixels, we have to do a calculation. And we need to keep on doing that calculation until we come to a number where we can give up.
Okay. And
we need to keep on doing that. And the best way to do that is with another loop. Am I going to go into loops? Am I going to use a while loop? I've not used a while loop in a while. Sorry,
yeah,
little pun there.
Oh, that was. Oh boy.
Sorry, Dan. It wasn't even very funny. I don't know why I said it. Anyway, I'm going to put this so it's inside the 2 for loops. So if we count how many green things we got the on start. Then inside that we've got the first 4. And then inside that we've got the second 4. And then inside that we've got the while. So there's 4 layers of green here. Thankfully, this is the last layer of green we're doing. Otherwise, we'll be going for ages. Anyway, we've got another big maths thing to build up, though, I'm afraid. And I'm going to start. We're going to need a logical AND. So a logical AND, which is in the logic panel at the bottom, and it's called under Booleans. Basically, it's saying is if thing A and thing B are true, carry on. If one of them's false, do nothing. So this is just kind of saying, oh, could you get me apples and bananas from the shops? You know, it is getting both of them. And this sort of logical AND is checking both things. And we've got something to check on the left and something to check on the right. And the thing that we check on the left is that this variable, iteration, is less than a sort of maximum value.
Right.
So I'm going to go to logic again. I'm going to scroll down. And I'm going to pick up this less than block. And I'm going to put it in the left. And this is just going to check whether one number is less than the other. I can never... Oh, yeah, that's it. The way I just taught to remember the symbols in school. Sorry, it's just coming... It's been one really nostalgic stream so far. I remember the sort of less than being a crocodile facing right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the greater than symbol being a crocodile facing left.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a better way of remembering that, but all I can think of is crocodiles.
Crocodiles seem to be the sort of... Yeah. Probably a good way.
Well, it was making me feel old, though, because that was ages ago. The thing that we're going to check on the left is the variable iteration. So I'm going to go into draw, and I'm going to pick up the variable I made earlier, the one called iteration. I'm just going to pop that into the left. And on the right is the maximum number of times we check. And if you have this as a small number, it means your Mandelbrot will be generated very quickly, but it won't be very accurate. And if you have a really high number, it means you get a really accurate Mandelbrot, but it takes ages to turn up.
Right.
I found a nice balance, and one which works well with the colours we're going to use, to be 255. So I'm going to put the number 255 in there. And when we come to sort of mess around with this later, we can change that number and see what we get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the left-hand side, and I'm afraid that's the easy part.
Okay.
Because we got a big old equation going in on the right-hand side. And we're going to start with another less than this time. So I'm going to go back to logic. I'm going to pick up another less than symbol. And I'm going to put in the right-hand side first. And the right-hand side is going to be 4. I don't know why. That just seems funny to me. We just go to 255 in here. We go to 4 on here.
4, yeah.
It just seems such a small number for what we're doing. I don't know. It's just funny to me for some reason. Don't ask me to explain. It's 5 o'clock on a Thursday. My brain's not exactly in the most
neither is mine.
fast-paced best place. Anyway. And next we need to do 2 calculations. We need to do xcalc times xcalc plus ycalc times ycalc.
Right, okay.
So let's sort of build that from the middle. Let's start with the plus. The plus goes in the middle of that equation. So I'm going to stick that in the left-hand side of the less than. Now, in the left-hand side of the plus, we need the first times, and this one's going to times xcalc with itself.
Mm-hmm.
So math, and I'm going to pick up a times. I'm going to put it in the left-hand side of the plus. And let's not do the right-hand side yet, because it'll get confusing with how many zeros are all about the place. Let's go to variables instead. And let's find xcalc and drag it into the first slot of the times. And go to variables again, find xcalc, drag it into the second slot of the times. Okay, so we got xcalc times xcalc plus something. And the something needs to be ycalc times ycalc. Oh gosh, it's like a tongue twister. So let's get another times. And in this one, I'm going to do ycalc. Come on, do it, behave. There we are. And ycalc. Phew. That was lengthy.
That is a lengthy equation.
That is a lengthy equation. I'm going to leave that up on the screen for a moment in case anyone wants to do that. In the meantime, any announcements?
Announcements. Ooh, do we have any announcements?
I don't. Yeah, that's one thing. So next week, Swansea Technicamps are off doing their STEM Academy.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure how many places that have been filled. I think probably a lot of it's very filled up. It's a bit close to the date to sign up again. But if it's interesting to you, you can keep an eye out on Technicamp's social media. If you're coming to us then for the day, we've got a lot of activities we've been preparing in the background. I've gotten to see all the activities, and I'm pretty pleased with them. There's one activity in particular I very much enjoyed. That I don't want to spoil it for anyone, so just trust me on it. It's good fun. The other
Excellent.
activity, sorry, the other sort of announcement over around about the 21st or the 22nd of August. Well, we may be embarking on a bit of a quest.
Oh yes, we will be.
Yeah. So there's going to be some further announcements about that. But if you head over to come on, website work, technocamps.com, and you give a good old scroll down. Sorry, not scroll down. I actually found it this time. Couldn't find it last week. You look at this banner at the top and go for the second blob. You can find out all the information about what's going on. And we're maybe doing something with the Wrexham STEM Academy.
Oh yeah.
21st to the 22nd of August. So keep an eye out on that. If that kind of thing interests you, pop in a subscribe to the Technocamps YouTube channel, where you'll be notified when it comes to the actual date. Anyway, a little bit of admin in the middle. Just give everyone a chance to get that equation down. Because guess what, Dan? The most entertaining part comes next.
Oh, excellent.
More equations.
Oh,
Don't you just love maths?
no. Oh no.
I lie. I joke. You know, some of us take the mick out of maths because it can be a little bit confusing and difficult. But the thing about it is, what people don't really realise is it's not about ability, it's about confidence. If you just sort of say, I don't care about doing bad, I'm just going to go for it and try my best, you'll find that without noticing it, you're kind of doing maths better.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's because your brain does maths all the time without you realising it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you throw up a ball and go to catch it, your brain has to calculate how to move your hand. So it's doing all these... It's doing very complex differential equations without you even having to be aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have the ability. It's sort of convincing yourself that you do. Anyway,
Exactly.
we're going to start. We're going to kind of use the xcalc variable again. But before we reuse it, we don't want to overwrite it. We don't want to delete what's already in it. So we're going to go to variables and we're going to make a new variable. And this one's just going to store... Oh, that's a loud motorbike.
That was a loud motorbike.
Oh, how dare they? Why does the summer bring out all the loud motorbikes? Anyway, we're going to go to variables. We're going to make a new variable. And the name of this one's going to be temporary. Temporary. Yeah, that's how you spell it. I hope. Temporary x. Because it's just going to hold an x value for us. Just until, so we can safely delete what we have without losing it forever.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm going to set temporary x, and I'm going to start with setting it to 0. So I'm putting this inside the while now with that big equation.
Okay.
And we're not going to set it to 0, we're actually going to set it to xcalc times ycalc. So I'm going to go to math. I'm going to pick up the times block. And on the left, I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to pick up xcalc. And for the right, I'm going to go to variables again and pick up ycalc. Nice.
Wonderful.
Oh, sorry, I've just seen what's coming next. Spoiler warning, it's an equation.
It's an equation. Oh, that's a surprise.
Again, a lot of equations to slog through today, but I argue that the results are worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to sort of update xcalc. And we're going to update it to some number that we work out. Sorry, I'm just looking at it on the screen. It's daunting me. So I'm going to go to variables. And I'm going to set... Well, at the moment, the block says set temporary x to 0. That's just because that always lists the last variable we made. We'll need to change that.
Right.
So I'm going to drag set temporary x to 0 out. But I'm going to use the drop-down arrow to change it to what it should be, which is xcalc. And what we're setting xcalc to is... Okay. Xcalc times xcalc minus x scaled plus y calc times y calc.
Oh, goodness me.
I'm so sorry, everyone. But yeah, let's do it in parts again. Let's break it down. That's one of the big things about coding and programming. It's all about breaking down complex stuff into nice, simple steps. I'm going to start with the first step, which is just getting the minus, which is sort of sits in the middle of the equation. And on the left-hand side of the minus, we need to times xcalc together with itself. I'm going to go to math. I'm going to get the times. And the times goes in the left-hand blob of the minus. And I'm going to get the variables draw, and I'm going to grab xcalc again. Oh, come on, get in the right place. There we are. And go back to the variables draw, and I'm going to get xcalc again. Okay, that's step 1 and 2 completed. The next step is to look at what goes where this 0 is. Well, let's again go for the sort of the middle. Let's do the plussing part first. So I'm going to grab the plus. Okay, so we've put a plus in. On the left-hand side of the plus, we need to do ycalc times ycalc. So again to the math panel, to grab a times, pop it in the right place. And in here, the 2 zeros, I'm going to replace them with ycalc that I'm grabbing from the variables draw. So ycalc, variables, ycalc. Okay, and to finish it off, we need to times it by one more thing, and it's a variable we've not seen since the start. It is x scaled. So I'm going to go to the variables drawer, pick up x scaled, and pop it in there. Whew.
Right, hang on now. I am just trying to... Whoa, let's just take a look here. Right, that's going there. Right, hang on.
There's a lot of purple there.
Times... Yeah, I'm just waiting for the full equation so I can validate that I've done this correctly. Because so far I don't think I have, but let's just wait and see. Xcalc, right, times xcalc. That's what I'm missing. So xcalc times xcalc minus ycalc. Oh, wait. I know I need the plus. Right, then ycalc plus x scaled. Okay, so I think times minus ycalc times ycalc plus x scaled. Right, I think I've got it now. We're good.
Nice. One way to sort of nice quick way of double checking, you should have 5 red sausages.
Yep.
And you should have 4 maths symbols. And
Yep.
there should be times, minus, times, plus.
Yes.
Marvellous. I mean, that's not a foolproof way of checking, but it's nice to check at a glance.
Exactly.
And again, you know, this is up on YouTube. You can always pause the stream. You can always, save it for another day. Yeah, it's just a bit of fun. Next up, we've got the final equation, and I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief with that. So we've done xcalc, we now need to do ycalc. So let's go back to variables. And scrolling down to the bottom of variables, we got another set temporary x to 0. Again, we can pick this up, but we just need to change which variable is being used. So it's not temporary x, it is ycalc. So we're setting ycalc to something. And again, let's build it up in bits. What we're doing is we're setting ycalc to 2 times temporary x plus y scaled. So let's do the middle of the equation. Let's do the plus. So math panel plus. Let's do the left hand blob first. So we need the times in that one. So I'm going to go back to math and pick up a times. Don't know why I scrolled down then. Okay. And in the times, the first blob, we're going to change 0 out to be 2. So we do 2 times something. And what we're timesing by 2 is temporary x. So I'm going to go back to variables. I'm going to pick up temporary x and pop it in there. And then on the right hand side, we only need one variable because there's only one blob that's still left at 0. And that blob should be y scaled. So back into variables, pick up y scaled. Nice. Yeah, so in this case we got 2 red sausages, 1 number 2, and a times and a plus.
Yes.
Excellent. And that's the last equation.
Wonderful.
Feels great, doesn't it?
It does.
We do need to do one last thing. We need to add 1 onto iteration. So the variable we made ages ago called iteration, we just need to add 1 onto it. So in variables, we can scroll down, and the change block, the change something by 1 block, is a nice quick way of doing that. So we're going to pick that up, put it at the bottom, and we're not going to change temporary x, we're going to actually change iteration. Okay. Nearly there. I'm quite excited for this.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we've worked out all this maths to determine whether 1 pixel is inside the Mandelbrot set.
Mm-hmm.
So all this is just doing it for 1 pixel at a time. Ooh. Oh, I've messed something up. Oh no, it's all fine. What we need to actually do now is we actually need to colour that pixel. We need to change the colour of that pixel so that it matches a different colour for how many iterations. So if it took 5 iterations to work out, it should be coloured pink. Or if it took 1,000 iterations, it should be coloured red. That kind of stuff.
Right.
And we're going to kind of cheat at doing this. There's a very nice thing in MakeCode Arcade where we can just sort of... all the colours have a number.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could just say, okay, use the colour of the number iteration.
Right.
And it understands that somehow, which I'm surprised it did, and I'm very pleased because it's means we can only do it in one line of code rather than 50.
Multiple. Yeah.
And the place where we're looking is in the images panel. Again, my favourite little in the advanced tab. And what we're looking for is the 4th line of code down where it says set picture color at pixel X, pixel Y to a certain color. So I'm going to pick that up. Now this needs to go in a very specific place. It needs to go after the while loop, but still inside both for loops. So what I mean is putting it here.
just for clarity, in case it's different for some people, my uh, the block that you need, that Jack's just said that we need, is actually the third one down in my menu for some reason.
Is it?
Not the fourth one.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It seems I have the same blocks, just for some reason in a different order.
Ah, interesting. Maybe MakeCode Arcade's going through an update.
Yeah, well, it did say that there was an update as I clicked on it.
Oh, that's cool.
So it looks as if when I first loaded it up, it said it had completed an update. So.
Oh, I'm very interested because I always look forward to MakeCode Arcade updates. See if I can find any other ways to break it. So yeah,
how many? Sorry, Jack. I was just going to see if there were any differences. Fill, picture color out, set picture color out, draw rectangle. Oh, for some reason, the only difference, Jack, is yours go the opposite way to mine. Mine starts with fill picture with and ends in fill rectangle in, and yours is the reverse.
Huh.
That is, as far as I can tell, the only difference.
Weird. Maybe it's because I'm on a different browser or a different computer.
I was going to just say, yeah, perhaps it's the browser.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Firefox for the win. Anyway, I'm going to set the color of the picture a certain... I'm going to change a certain pixel. But we have nothing called picture. In fact, if we look back at the start, we actually called our picture background.
Mm-hmm.
So if you called yours something like, I don't know, Percy, then you need to use the drop-down arrow to change it to Percy. I call mine background, though. Call me old-fashioned and boring. Now, if we always set 0, 0, that'll be the top left pixel.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want the pixel we're looking at the moment. And we're going to get that from the width and the height. Oh, do beg my pardon. We're going to get it from the width and the height. So, we need the width, and we need to drag it into the X slot, and we need the Y, and we need to drag it into the Y slot. I'm going to have to zoom out for this a bit, which makes it a little bit hard to see, so apologies for that. But you're going to grab the width, drag it down, and put it in the X slot. I'm going to grab the height, drag it down, do a little loop-the-loop, and put it in the Y slot. To give us set background color at width, height to grey. Well, that's not very useful. We don't really want it to set things to grey. We want to set it to the number of iterations. So I'm going to go back to my lovely little variables drawer, and I'm going to pick out iteration. Like that. Finally, one last one last thing of code. All that maths has gone to my head.
Yeah.
One last thing of code. We need to update the background image to be the background again. This is just to sort of force it to update, to force it to have the new colors that we've chosen. So I'm going to go to the scene drawer, and I'm going to set the background image to something blank. And what this does is it goes underneath everything, but inside the last green foot. So it's the last thing in on start. There's on start, and set background image to is the last thing there. And we're not going to set it to blank. That would be a waste of time. We're going to set it to background. I'm going to go back to variables and pick up my background and pop it in there. And there we are. I wish I could show off the whole code all at once to make it easier to copy. But again, of course, there is options to pause if you need to see any bit of it in detail.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, are you feeling ready, Dan?
Yes, well, mine is functional.
Okay, let's see what it turns out like. Oh, there we go. Let me rerun that. And there we are. We have a Mandelbrot. We have Mandelbrot, people.
Excellent.
Need a celebration sound of some sort. If yours doesn't work, take another look through the code. It's probably that you might have got the equations, a bit in the wrong order.
Easy to get mixed up.
Very easy to do, but yeah. That took a little bit longer than I was hoping. But we did have a long ass to go through.
We did have a lot of
but that's not the best bit. Here's where we can mess around and have fun now.
Mm-hmm.
So, every number we've made today, except for where we're setting things to 0, probably.
Yeah.
And probably except for the width and the height. They should probably stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
But every number we can have a mess around and see what happens.
Oh, one.
So, for example, what happens if I change, in this while, if I set the sort of the maximum iteration, what happens if I set that to 2? Let's see what happens. I just get a big circle. A big red circle. And that's because every time it's checking, it gets more and more precise and it forms the shape of the Mandelbrot more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So if I change that up to, let's say, 5... There we are, we get a bit more Mandelbrot shape. If I change that number up to 1,000... we can see it takes a lot longer to process, but we get a much more accurate Mandelbrot.
Mm.
So it's all about balancing what numbers make the best,
Absolutely.
thingy. That's the word.
A what's it Mahuli?
Oh, what's it Mahuli? We have what's it Mahuli, everyone. Yeah, I'm going to keep it at 255 because I do find that a nice balance. Plus, at 255, it's in the right order, meaning that black is in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's the traditional colour for the Mandelbrot set. Yeah, pretty cool. It also gets cooler, Dan.
Oh, excellent.
Because we can actually zoom in to the Mandelbrot.
I'm trying this as we speak.
Yeah. So the cool thing about fractals and Mandelbrot and Julia fractals and all, any kind of fractal image is if we zoom in on a certain part, we can actually see it repeating itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and zoom in to this gap between the sort of the heart shape in the first circle. Because this gap here is called the Seahorse Valley.
Oh, I see.
Because as you zoom into it, you begin to see shapes that look a little bit like a seahorse.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way I do that is I need to look at the X scaled and the Y scaled and change the numbers there. So the first numbers, the ones on the left, these change where on the screen the Mandelbrot is. So if I change that to -2 and run it again, we can see it jumps to the right. So minus numbers mean it goes right. If I change that to, let's change that up to 1, it means it jumps to the left. So we get interesting numbers there. I'm going to keep it at 0 for now, because we can refine this as we zoom in.
Just a heads up for you, Jack. We are coming up to the 5:30.
Ooh, no worries. I'll get in there quickly then. Y scaled works the same way. So if we change this to -2, I believe we jump up the screen. Yep. And if we change that to, let's say, if we go up to 0, we jump down the screen. So positive numbers down, negative numbers up. Now, I've picked out 2 numbers which work really well. And, the cool thing about this is you can experiment to your heart's content. I'm going to pick out 0.35 for X scaled. And for Y scaled, I'm going to pick up -0.54. And if I run that, it kind of puts us there. But what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in. And the way we do that is where it says this number here on the right-hand side of the x-scaled and y-scaled equations, that changes the zoom. And the larger that number is, the more zoomed in you are. So if I change that, if I double that to 100, let's pop that up to 100, I get... Oh, it's running. There we are, we're a bit more zoomed in now. And we can start to see that it is repeating and repeating and repeating. Let's pop that up to 200. 200. Oh, okay, we're getting into the Seahorse Valley now. So we're kind of zoomed in a little bit closer there, and we're getting into this cool valley. Let's go up to 400. What you will have to find is as you zoom in more and more, you'll have to start making the numbers bigger and bigger as you zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
There we are. We're kind of at the top of the Seahorse Valley at the moment. Start to see the cool stuff. Let's go to 800. Nice. Really getting close in now. Starting getting some of the trippy stuff. Let's whap it up to 1,000. Nice. Let's go for 5,000. Oh, okay, we're getting to some cool territory now. We get to see these weird spindly leg bits. I find these the coolest bit because they're just like rainbow coloured socks. I'm not even sure where we are with relation to the actual proper Mandelbrot shape. Let's double that and go to 10,000. Okay. Oh, we're in some cool territory now. We got more Mandelbrots and we've got another Seahorse Valley coming up. And look, there's even a Mandelbrot forming over here. I say over here, you can't really see my mouse against this mess of colour. And finally, 2,000, 20,000 rather. Yeah, we're right in this sort of valley now. Yeah, so cool stuff.
Absolutely.
At least I think so. If you give me a second, I know we've gone over time a bit, so sorry about that. If you give me a second, I'm just going to load up one I made earlier, where what I did was I got it to change the numbers.
Right.
I got it to change the zooming numbers bit by bit.
Right.
And what I was able to do was get it to sort of zoom in slowly and sort of magically.
Oh, I see. Oh, that might be... I'm just thinking that would be a nice sort of outro scene for it.
Yeah, it would. It's also a nice little extension for anyone who wants to give it a go. It does take a while to load, so hang on. Let me get it up. So yeah, all I did here was I just kept looping and looping and looping and looping. And every time I looped, I changed the numbers that you zoom in by. And it's a little bit chunky at the start, but...
It gets there.
It gets there. Oh, and then we go in. Oh, it's so trippy. And then we come into this sort of Raspberry Ripple section.
Oh, the stream's finally caught up.
Then we go into sort of more socks. Yeah, and we just get closer and closer into cool things like that.
That's excellent.
Anyway, I'm going to restart that and use that as an outro. In any case, until then, I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've made a fun little, had a chance to explore a fractal. Thank you ever so much, Dan, for tagging along.
Oh, no, thank you for having me on again.
No worries. I mean, you are the co-host, so
Yeah, I guess I am here.
It's no surprise that you're on.
Yeah, here I am.
Anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Remember to keep an eye out on the Technocamp's social media, at Technocamps on Instagram, technocamps.com on the World Wide Web, and I don't know any other social medias. I assume at at Technocamps on Twitter? I don't know.
I think there's a Twitter. Yeah, there must be.
Twitter's confusing to me. We're definitely on Facebook, though. And I think we're even on LinkedIn.
We are.
So if you want to sort out your careers portfolio and also check out some cool Technocamp stuff, LinkedIn's another place you can go. Remember that we have a podcast on? I say remember, I think it's the first time we've announced the podcast on stream.
It is, yeah.
That's bad on our part. But
We'll
on Spotify, that's not a word. On Spotify, if you look at Technocamps, we have the Techno Talks podcast. That's all about looking at women in STEM and getting girls into computer science. So in any case, that's good night from me.
And from me as well.
Let me start this off and bid you farewell, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.